Hello and welcome, everyone, to Lesson Learned, a conversation about Mythcraft. I am Corey Griffin, and today I'm going to be running solo, and I'm going to be talking you through a little bit of character creation today. With that being said, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and ask me in chat. I'd love to hear about them. Some things that we're going to be going over. So, we're going to be going over what I call the 6 steps of character creation, what Mythcraft actually has their 5 steps. I add step 0, which for me is, creating a character concept. Choosing what it is that you're going to be doing. Like, what is it in your brain you want to see happen with this character? What do you want to do? Yeah, I can do that. Okay. So for me, I've everyone's built characters before, hopefully in different systems. If not, welcome. Glad to see you. You always want to kind of have this idea of what you're going to be doing, what how you want to build your character for future use. Particularly Mythcraft. Mythcraft very you benefit quite a bit from from choosing what you want early and often. With that being said, after you've went ahead, you have this kind of idea, where do you start? Well, first you're going to pick your lineage. And your lineage is going to give you some lineage talents, some skill points. Eventually, you're going to get more lineage talents that allow you to further develop your character based on their lineage, not just some of the other choices that you make. So, in the base game, we are given quite a few lineages, and I'm just going to go ahead and talk you through some of them right now. So, first, we have the Brunei. They have like a brownish green skin, pointed ears, and thick manes of mossy green, brown, or black hair. For Ansera, which is the setting specific to Mythcraft, the Brunei originally came from the southern swamplands, and they possess a captivating appearance that they share with their northern relatives, the Trollkin. After that, we also have the Dragonfolk. So, they resemble their dragon ancestors with like tough scales, reptilian tails, curled horns. Most of them even have wings. Even though most of them are flightless, they can kind of glide a little bit, but all dragon folk can breathe fire by tapping into the power of their ancestry. You know, we do have some of the more basic lineages for a lot of your fantasy settings. Like the dwarves, who are, stout and hardy and are the masters of the subterranean realm, where their ingenuity and natural affinity with the earth sees them digging mighty underground cities and like fighting the dangers of the lightless can't caverns. They've developed a mastery of traps and defenses against all manners of threat from both above and below. You know, in Ansera, dwarven fortresses are some of the most impenetrable bastions in the known world. We also have the elementals, which they are humanoids with a deep connection to the Everwilds. In our actual play, Tales of Yvard, episodes are posted on the channel. Zephyr is an air elemental. Uh, you know, they have many sub lineages, but the four most common and the four that you can kind of play as are air, earth, fire, and water. Back to some of the more standard fantasy races, we have the elves, which I feel like base lore Mythcraft does have some very fun and unique twists on some of their lore on the elves, but as varied as the elves are in body and personality, they are generally respected for their wisdom and adventurous spirits. Again, elves are kind of standard fantasy lore, do have an extended lifespan. So, while they might have super long lives, they still greet each and every day with open-eyed wonder and search for new and exciting experiences. So, just a warning for everyone, because I am doing this kind of solo, there may be a few pauses and things like that during today's stream. I apologize for it now, and I'm going to apologize for it frequently. All right. Next on our list of lineages, we have the Fiendbloods, which Fiendbloods are the result of mingling the blood of fiends and humanoids. The child, when they're young, may appear perfectly normal, and healthy for the first few years of its life. Though their nature quickly changes, quickly becomes apparent as they grow, and they start to get like horns, maybe some green, some red or gray tones to their skin. Their eyes might darken into black orbs. Though there is a high chance that tragedy follows behind a Fiendblood wherever they may go. Our next lineage we have today is the Golem. You might be thinking, I can play a Golem? Yeah. Golems are, formed of clay and stone, or maybe sticks and bones. Golems are constructed humanoids that have only recently come into existence thanks to the advancement of magic. Again, this is kind of the Ansaran lore behind them. And, they start by sculpting a humanoid form and then binding it to a magical force. Next, we find another one of our fantasy, or not find. Next, we come to another one of our fantasy, like, staples. We're coming to the halflings. Halflings are a diminutive people as diverse and as widespread as humans, though only half as tall. What they lack in what they lack in stature, I wrote notes. I can't read them apparently. They make up for in their bravery and their nimbleness. And many halfling heroes have made their names as adventurers. Dipping away from the normal high fantasy kind of setting, we have the Handu, which are canine humanoids who originally came from the dark boreal forests of the northern lands. Again, this is the kind of Ansaran lore. And have since spread to all corners of the known continent. They possess unmatched endurance and speed for any race their size. They are able to track and pursue prey for days on end, and equally, they are capable of hauling back their kills to their family groups. What would a fantasy world be without humans and their tenacious and unwavering drive to fill their lives with enjoyment and securing a legacy that will one day outlive them? Next, we're going to come across the Kitsek, which are feline humanoids. They are endlessly curious, occasionally distracted. I think I've been a few times. They're known for their adventurous and fickle nature. They rarely stay in one place for more than a few years, as boredom frequently drives their urge for new sights, sounds, and places. Thus, they may find many positions on ships and caravans around the world, and their natural grace and athleticism makes them excellent scouts, performers, and sailors. I am sorry for anyone that is watching or is watching in post. I know this is not as entertaining as most of our lessons learned, but this will be an informative based one. Up next, we have the Kleppen, who are an incredibly diverse lineage of small, fur-covered humanoids with features resembling a multitude of woodland animals. Some sport thick little bushy tails with cherubic cheeks, like the common squirrel, while others have tall, pointed ears and long feet, like a meadow hare. Still others hold resemblance to badgers, beavers, or raccoons. Regardless of what critter they might resemble, they are all Kleppen and are known to hold the same fiery spirit that is known of their kind. Up next, we have the Radin. The ancient Avardi, Avard, have vestigial traces of power throughout the known universes. The world of Ansera, or Yavard, if you're watching Tales of Yavard, is rich with these slivers of power. Sometimes, under rare circumstances, these legacies manifest as living humanoid entities. Sometimes, between a magical artifact, or, sorry, something between a magical artifact and a breathing biological person. These are the Radin, sapient traces of power long forgotten. Then we come to the remnant. So remnants are, you know, the byproduct of Advent widespread magic. Sometimes these shards, these remnants, find themselves awake and with memories that blur and blend together. These wandering souls seek out esoteric something, whether that is to be a master or if they're searching for true freedom. Most cannot describe in words of any mortal tongue what they are actually looking for. Remnants are highly empathic and often sensitive to the emotional energies of the people they surround themselves with. Up next, we have the satyr. Lesh Shoehorn in Tales of Yavard is a satyr. Satyrs generally resemble olive-skinned humans. They bear a number of distinctly goat-like features, including hooves, fur-covered legs and waist, tails, ears, and horns. You know, their fur and hair color have a range that matches from human hair to goat fur. Some satyrs also have more unique hair and fur color akin to spring flowers, like your pastel pinks, your greens, your like soft blues, stuff like that. Satyrs' eyes tend to have a brighter complexion than those seen in normal humans. Trollkin is the next one that we come to. They are a relative of the mystical Brunei that we had talked about earlier. They are the hulking Trollkin are well defined by their brown-green skin, long pointed ears, and protruding lower tusks. They often sprout thick manes of mossy green, brown, or black hair and long claw-like nails on their four-fingered hands. Up next, of the base lineages, we come to the undead. There are many ways to pass through the Veil of Death, but few ever pass back. For time immemorial, intelligent mortals have sought ways to break the bonds of life for themselves or others. Whether by a dark ritual, unrestricted science, or sheer power of will, these beings continue to exist on the fringes of the living world. Last, but certainly not least, especially not for those of us in Tales of Yavard, we have the Urkow. And they are humanoid bears that are proud and noble people that and Ansera originally hail from the far northern realms where their thick hides and massive claws allow them to survive in even the most inhospitable climate. Now, that I just gave you a little bit of a rundown of all these different lineages, the thing to remember is you want to pick what fits your character concept. You know. Then we're going to move on to step 2, which is assigning your attribute points. So, when we talk about assigning your attribute points or just your attributes in general, we're talking about the 8 game-based stats. You have your physical stats, which is your strength, dexterity, endurance. You have your mental stats, which is your awareness, your intellect, and your charisma. And you have your metaphysical stats, which are your luck and your coordination. When you first start your character at level 1, you get 5 attribute points to set in any of these 8 skills, 8 attributes. At level 1, they cannot exceed a +2. So I just listed off like these 8 things. So let's get into talking about them a little bit. So, like, what is strength? So, strength is lifting, pulling, dragging, and undergoing strenuous exertion. This is the attribute that you want to demonstrate your sheer muscle. You want to hold that cart full of, people back, kind of Spider-Man style, stopping a train. That's strength. Dexterity. Nimbleness, good reflexes, maintaining your balance, and your motor function under duress. This attribute is what allows you to be lighter on your feet. Things like doing, Spider-Man doing. I can actually do a lot of these with Spider-Man comparisons. Yeah. But doing things like balancing across a balance beam, doing a backflip. These are all things that I would consider dexterity. Up next, we have endurance. Which endurance is withstanding harsh external conditions and enduring long-term physical strain. This attribute also directly affects how much HP you get. We'll check back in on that at a later time. In a couple minutes we'll talk about how HP and all that works. Up next, and those are our 3 physical attributes. Up next, we are starting our mental attributes with awareness, which is picking up on the sensory details that warn of like danger, deceit, and the like. This is the attribute that tells you how good are you at observing and interpreting the world around you. How much do you understand what's going on? Our second mental attribute we're going to be talking about today is intellect. With a wealth of knowledge, it is your capacity to quickly consume and accurately retain information. This is your attribute which determines how good you are at processing the information and recalling it accurately when you need to. Our last of the 3 mental attributes we're going to be talking about today is going to be charisma, which is projecting your desires, your confidence, and your force of will to your advantage. You know, this attribute reflects your personal magnetism and your ability to sway people to your views. Up next, we have the first of our two metaphysical attributes. These attributes are different than your physical or your mental. They are mostly a mechanical benefit or detriment based on what you do with these attributes. So the first one we're talking about today is luck, which luck is having things go your way when they probably shouldn't, you know. This attribute allows fate, sways fate, swings fate. It puts fate on your side and grants you a special ability. Whenever you may re-roll one d20 that you rolled if you are unsatisfied with the result. You may use this ability once for every 2 points of luck that you have, regaining all expended uses upon taking a rest. If your luck is lower than 0, you can never crit, and you subtract your luck from every d20 roll that you make. Alright, I'm very sorry about that. I did not realize that that was going to happen. So we were talking about luck. So you get the ability to do a reroll once for every 2 points of luck that you have, regaining all of your uses upon taking a rest, which is a very specific type of resting specific to Mythcraft. If your luck is lower than 0, so that's a -1, a -2, or a -3, you subtract your luck, so -1, -2, or -3, from every roll that you make. And you cannot crit, ever. If you have 1 or more luck, your crit becomes stronger. You add your luck score to critical damage that you deal. Furthermore, if you have 6 or more luck, your crit range will increase by 1. So, for example, if you only crit on a 20, if you have 6 luck, you now crit on a 19 or 20. If when you get to 12 luck, your crit range increases by 1 more. However, your crit range can never exceed 16 to 20. So that is all that we have for luck right now. Next, we're going to talk about coordination. So, coordination is your overall ability, both physically and mentally, to process information and act upon it. This is neither dexterity, which is your physical attribute, nor is it your awareness, which is your mental attribute, but a completely separate mechanic that they use to track your capacity to act. For every 2 points of coordination that you have, you gain 1 additional AP at the beginning of your turn. We're gonna have a video talking about AP at another time. But it all comes back to coordination. If you have a -1 or -2 in your coordination, you lose 1 AP at the beginning of your turn. If you have a -3 in your coordination, you lose 2 AP at the beginning of your turn. All right, so just to kind of break it down on kind of what we're talking about right now. You get 5 points to spend between all of this. That's a lot of things to spend it on when you can spend up to 2 per. A lot of times I see people put 2 points in coordination for reasons we'll talk about at another time. And then whatever stat that they eventually plan on using for their attack stat, they'll put a +2 in there. And then they will normally, depending on the build, put 1 point in awareness. They'll put 1 point in awareness or in intellect, because they have the most skills between those 2 attributes. That being said, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong way to use your 5 points. I have seen people do 1 point in 5 of these 8 abilities. I've also seen some other things, because you can take a -1 to also add a +1, so you would have a total of 6 instead of 5, but you would have to take a -1 into one of your abilities, to one of your attributes. So another step, actually, as I'm looking right now, I think right here is going to be a good time to take like a 5-minute break. So I will be back. All right, I am very sorry about that. That went a little bit longer than I meant it to. So another thing that we're gonna talk about a little bit is gonna be, some defenses. So Mythcraft has a total of 6 defenses. Um, you're gonna hear me talk about them frequently. In future videos, I will talk about them more. All right. So you have your AR, which is your armor rating, which is kind of based on your armor and your shields and all of that kind of stuff that you have going for you. After that, you have some that are based off of your skills that you've had so far. So whether that is not your skills. I'm very sorry. I keep saying skills. After your armor rating, you have your defenses that are attribute based. So reflex is going to be 10 plus your dexterity. So, for example, if you were to put a +1 in your dexterity, your reflex before other bonuses would just be 11. Pretty simple to understand. There are lots of ways to boost your defenses and to move defenses around. This is just a simple example. The one based on your endurance is called fortitude, which is, again, 10 plus your endurance. Logic is 10 plus your intellect. Anticipation is 10 plus your awareness. And your willpower is 10 plus your charisma. So that's, I'm going to see if I can find a good explanation on what the defenses are. Not so much. So, but yeah, those are just your basic defenses. Oh, hi, whoever joined. Today we're talking about character creation in Mythcraft, TTRPG. Drink water. All right. So continuing down the list, right? Now we've noted our stats, which is also part of calculating our defenses. Oh, I almost forgot everyone's favorite thing, which is figuring out your HP. Okay. So, Mythcraft has a nice little table. I don't think I'm going to be able to show it on screen at the moment, on the stream. Very sorry. I am taking the moment to scroll through and look. I'm very sorry. Alright, so I can't seem to find it at the moment. I'm very, very sorry about that. Alright. So, in essence, uh, yeah, I'm very sorry about taking that time to look for that. When you're calculating your hit points, you have to, you start out with 10 plus your level plus a die per level, and the size of the die is decided by how much endurance that you have. So, whether that is a D4 all the way up to a D12, there is a talent that you can take that, with a few detriments that come along with it, you can use a D20 to decide your hit dice. See how many hit points you have. So up next, we're going to talk about choosing your background, your occupation, and your profession. I know we touched on it a little bit last session, last lesson learned, but this time I'm going to go ahead and read off just the names, not a full description like I did with all the lineages, but just the names of the backgrounds and the professions that come with the core rulebook. So the backgrounds are going to be born warrior, criminal, entrepreneur, knave, noble title, outlander, student, true believer, and urchin. So these are, again, you get one background and one profession. So I'll give more examples here in a couple moments. Some examples of some of the professions are archivist, barrister, charlatan, clergy, entertainer, guard, honorable, inquisitor, knight, nomad, physician. I am very sorry for that. I seem to be having a few more technical difficulties than I would like to admit. So I believe I was at Physician last. So we also have Pioneer, Sailor, Soldier, Trader, Thief, and Thug. So just some examples of what you can do. Some examples of what is possible. You could have a born warrior clergy. You could have a true believer guard. You could have a noble title soldier. These are all just examples because with the exception of urchin, every background you also get a profession. Urchin specifically gives you more skill points, but no profession. And believe it is knave. Should probably look this up before I tell you guys. I'm sorry about this. Yeah, so as a knave, you get a really cool ability where you gain 2 professions of your choice, and you gain the starting equipment, skill points, and abilities of both professions. But each time you gain a rank in your profession, you have to choose which rank you want to go. So it's very unlikely that if you go knave, you will get 5 ranks in your profession. But you start out a little faster, but progress a little slower. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So you could have a knave, entertainer, sailor, which makes me think of like a jester aboard that is used to being aboard a ship. But so now we've chosen our lineage. We've noted our stats. Sorry. Gonna go with my 6. We've come up with a character concept. We've chosen our lineage. We've assigned our attributes. We've noted our stats. And we've chosen our occupation, background, and profession. Or background, occupation, profession. Or, as I like to shorten it to, BOP. The very last thing you do when creating your character is you're going to choose your starting talent. So when you choose your starting talents, there's a lot of them that you can take. You can take any specialization talent that doesn't have any prerequisites, or you can choose an entry talent into one of the 5 sources of magic. There will be videos specifically for both of these things in the future. So just a general overview, the 5 sources of magic are primal, arcane, occult, psionic, and divine. These are just the 5 different types of magic that Mythcraft has. And they have a interesting interaction. Like I said, I have a plan for a future lesson learned on nothing but the magic system and how they interact. And then individual possible individual lesson learned on the magics themselves and their spells and other things. So I said that one of the paths you could go is to grab an entry talent from a source of magic. The other way that you can go is to take specialization talents that don't have any prerequisites, right? So most of them come down to coming from 5 stacks or 5 types of talents. These are kind of groupings based on what they do. You have the combat stacks, which these skills, like, they enhance your combat in some way. So an example of this is the talent Weapon Expertise, which is you choose a weapon type. It could be one-handed, could be two-handed, or it could be hand and a half. And then you can choose a range, whether that's melee, ranged, or reach. You gain a +1 to hit and +1 to damage with weapons that have both of those qualities. So as long as let's say you go one-handed melee, as long as you're using a one-handed melee weapon, you gain a +1 to hit and damage with it. Another one of the stacks, I'm not going to go into every talent, that is multiple lesson learned later on. Another one of the stacks that you could have is the command stack. These talents will make you better at either commanding a room or even commanding the whole battlefield. One of the examples I'm going to give with today is the On Your Feet talent, which allows you to spend 1 AP to pull an adjacent ally up from being prone. So, another one of the stacks that they have is the defense stack. These talents will improve your capacity to avoid or to mitigate damage. One of which I'm thinking of right now is Ain't No Grave. And that is when you would gain a death point at the end of your turn. We'll get into death points probably on a later video. You can, instead of gaining a death point, you can expend one of your available luck points that we talked about earlier when we talked about attributes to remove a death point. If this would cause you to reach 0 death points, you instead regain 1 HP with 0 death points. Another one of the stacks that I believe is rather self-explanatory in its naming is the miscellaneous stacks. So is the miscellaneous stack. This is a stack where it really it gives you fun and useful abilities. However, it doesn't really fit into any of the other 4 stacks. The talent that I'm thinking of right now is Animal Companion. And what Animal Companion does for you is you gain a small, mundane animal companion, such as a songbird or maybe like a little hamster. Or for like my more darkness-loving watchers, maybe a little bat. This creature does not have statistics or participate in combat, but you can communicate with it on a very surface level with thoughts with it, like danger or happy. So the last of the stacks that I'm coming to and slowly closing the episode out with is the skill stacks. So the skill stack will give you more skill points, which we will cover skills in another lesson learned. I feel like I said that a lot today. But they will give you more skill points, and a lot of them will give you some small bonus. So one that I am thinking of for an example is Biologist, which is gain +3 in the biology skill. And you can immediately identify if a creature has the beast tag or the monstrosity tag, or If it has neither, this costs 0 AP on your turn. Alright, so this has been about an hour of me explaining the basics of character creation in Mythcraft, of creating a level 1 character. Now, I will be honest with you. I took an hour to explain a lot of the details. One of these lessons learned, we will actually make a character, and you will see, and hopefully over time, I can help you all see that it is not as difficult as it looks. Maybe. Hopefully. That being said, does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns that they would like me to try and answer today? Give you a couple minutes. Let the stream catch up. Alrighty, so I'm not seeing any questions right now. So, what I'm going to say is that is everything that I have for today, y'all. If you would like to see how character creation works in our game, you can check out our actual play podcast, Tales of Yvard. You can catch that either on YouTube or anywhere podcasts are found. And if you would like, you can let us know what topics you would like us to cover next in the comments below. Until next time, see you later.